Hey y'all, it's Magnolia Money, and on this video I wanted to show you guys how to create a grid, how to read a grid, and how to use it to your advantage in order to catch a win from your state's pick 3, cash 3, numbers, or daily 3 games that your state may have. Now, first thing you want to do is create you 15 marks across the top of your paper. You will have a plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, all the way across 15 times until you get back to this plus. All right, you will take the last 5 draws of your state's winning numbers. If your state plays multiple times a day, you will pick whichever one you want to go with. Like if you typically play midday, you would take the last 5 midday draws and place them across, starting with your most current at the left, working your way to the right, being the 5th day here. Now, if you play in the evenings, you start the same way. You do the last 5 of the evening draws. Now, Mississippi only has 1 draw a day, so I'm going to use Mississippi as an example. Now, 670 came out for this particular day, and that's the most current win. This was the previous day, previous before that, the one before it, and then the 5th day there. So what you will do is you will have your plus, minus across the top. You will start with your first row. Since 670 came out, we're going to add 1 to the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You only keep what's in the right-hand side and what is in the ones position. 11, you see that it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once you get to the number that you started with, which in this case was a 6, you're going to stop your grid right there. And then you will go back to the next column to where it is a minus. You will subtract 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to go back to 0, 9, 8, 7, and you would just continue that same pattern until you have your grid completed. You would then go and take your most current night's winning number, which in this case is 670, and you will highlight it throughout the grid. The next step is to start reading your grid. Now, for me personally, I do it a specific way. You might find that the way that you do it and the way your state plays might be different than the way that I look at it, but this is what I start off doing. I start at the top left-hand corner, and I have 670. I start here, and I look at all of the possibilities and combinations that I can make based on your next night's winning number touching this particular one. So for instance, I would start off with something like, say, and I'm just ballparking this, like just eyeballing it here just for this video. But you would start with something like, say, 662, 860, 711. You could even go 775, 715, and you could even go down and play a series, which would be 765. You could play 678. You could even do, like I said, you could start over here on the corner and go 028. But what you're going to want to do is find numbers that tend to be repeating around the other locations on the board. So you find a few numbers, you check them out, you see which ones you like. You could even use numbers that do not contain the 670, which a lot of times you may have one number roll over to the next night. Like as you see here, we had the 6 roll over from this night, and then it played the previous night before that. So depending on how your state's pattern is, you can kind of play around with that and test it and see what it is. But you could also do this. If you don't use any of those previous night's connecting numbers, you would have something like 513. You would have 121. You could have 215, 861. Even though you got a 6 up here, this one right here, it is still highlighted. You are still using it, but you can even go like 851 because it does come around what was previously listed. Then you're going to go, like I said, whichever direction you prefer. You can go across this way. You can skip down here and start looking at numbers. But what I do to be able to find my wins is I use a certain pattern, a certain method. And just so you guys know that, yes, there's for tonight. You can see I recorded this on February 3rd. There's one of my winning tickets. I got that at like 4 something. And then I got this one here again later on in the night. And you guys can see that I hit twice. That's $80 win. It's not much because I only play 50 cents, but I play a couple of different numbers at a time. But here we go. I'm going to get back to this. But I wanted to show you guys that you can win using this method. But this is how I do it. I then go from this section, this top left corner, I go down here to the next, like what I call the meteor part of the grid. So like sometimes I might come over here, but usually it's like this area if it's further over to the left, because this is your most current, most recent data. So I look for numbers that might match or repeat from up here. So just offhand, I'm seeing 513, 512. I'm seeing the 662. Well, if you look here, we've got 662, 215. There is, like I said, 211 plays. It plays here. So I start writing these numbers down because those are the numbers that I'm going to start looking for and possibly, okay, these are kind of making sense. I'm going to go ahead and use these. I'm going to write them down. And you will find that they may not play down here. So that's why I write them down. Because down here, I might find 659, 795. I may see 893 or 843. These are just random numbers I'm throwing out just based on looking at this. But what I'll do is like I see like this 843, and then I go and I take it and go back up here. I cross-reference it. Look at there. We have 843 coming off of the previous night's winning numbers. It's also playing off of these. So that's a number that I write down. Right here, 834. You have 822, 814. I start looking for those around here that touch or connect to those previous nights. I slowly start making my way over to the right-hand side of the grid. Okay, so that's the method that I use. Here's a 315. I see a 315 here. I don't necessarily see it in this section, but I do see it here. So these are just a couple of ways that I personally do it, and I do find wins, as you just seen on those 2 tickets that I showed you. They do work. But one thing that I do not use in this grid for me personally is I do not use mirrors. And if you're not familiar what a mirror is, it is where one number plays as another back and forth. So if you see a 5, it could be used as a 0 could be used as a 5, 1 and 6 can be played as the same thing, and so forth. Now, some people will use mirrors on the grid, but the way that I do it and the way I get my wins, I don't do it. Whatever comes out on here is how it's going to play for the following night. Now, with that being said, I want you guys to follow with me on the previous night. This is the current for right now for this particular video, for this particular day. I'm going to backtrack one day, and this is what it looked like yesterday. Okay, for the 2nd, when I was creating my grid on February 2nd for the drawing of February 3rd, I highlighted the previous night's winning numbers, which was the 361 at that time. Now, I want you guys to see how this played out on the grid. You will see it didn't come from that top left, but it did come from what I called that meaty part of the section here. It did come from here. It actually used the 6 because it, I told you sometimes your numbers will carry over. You might have heard me say that in some of the other videos. Depends on the pattern of your state. Point is, it played a 6 again. All right, so the 6 played, the 7's there, and the 0's there. They either use or touch the previous night's winning numbers. The only time I've never seen them do that is when the board completely reset, which happens about every 3 to 5 weeks. If it's happening every single day, something's up with your lottery. Okay, I'm just saying. But these will get heavy, and I'll show you guys an example of what a heavy board looks like versus a light. This one here is kind of a light board, light to medium as far as the markings on it. Not like I said, I'll show you guys that here in just a few moments. But you will see that it plays off here. It plays off of this bottom left. It plays off this section. Right here, it creates its own little section, which is fine because if you see a large gap in here in your grid at any point, I will suggest looking there because sometimes you can find that winning number. And in this case, that 760 was there. But you will see that it played and used off of this portion, and it connected to this one here. So see, those are the things you guys want to look for when you're using these particular types of grids. Now, what was I talking about with a heavy and a light grid? This one's kind of a medium grid. You see how many times the purple was used and how it was connecting to the previous night's numbers? Well, this is part of it. This is a little bit of an example. The night before that was a heavy grid. You see how many purples were on here? That turned into a heavy grid, therefore making that following night, as you see in orange, it's played heavily. So you're going to have a lot of places to look at on your grid. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes it's a headache because you have more spots you're really having to dig into and to find. Now, like I said, when I read mine, I start here at the top left, I go to the middle, and then I go to the bottom, and then I work my way over to the right. That, like I said, I'm just going to show you guys and flip through for those of you that are interested. If not, just bear with me because I want to show what some of these look like on the previous nights. So see, this is when we actually had what we call a series, which is a run of consecutive numbers, 4, 5, 6. It may have came out in a different order, but the fact is it still was a 6, 5, 4 or 4, 5, 6. So with that being said, you guys, you see how these are playing. That's just a few examples. Another thing is you can cross-reference this with tic-tac-toes. You can cross-reference it with rundowns of like 646, 246. Personally, I use a 927 method. There's different ones like a 369, 317. There's some other channels here on YouTube that use those as well, so you guys can feel free to check them out and check out their methods, because you can cross-reference that with these. But I also have videos in my Cash 3 playlist that you guys can check out that do give you examples of how to use a tic-tac-toe board and how to cross-reference it with this particular grid, and the rundowns. Now, I do have a couple of other methods that I have not introduced yet, but I will be soon. I just wanted to get this information out for you guys regarding the grid, because I do post this on my website for Mississippi. I do post it every night. It is usually up by, I would say, 11, 12 o'clock Central Time. By midnight, it's usually up. I do spend a lot of time working these. I also do grids for other states. If you are in Ohio, Texas, or Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia, Illinois, if you're in Missouri, Michigan, Virginia, Maryland, New York, and Indiana, any of those states I also run grids for. Just to give you an example, I do spend a lot of time on what I do, but these are just an examples of other grids. You guys, I can't quite get the whole thing into the picture, but if you're interested in seeing what your grid looks like, I try to, because I have so many that I do, I try to get those up by noon Central Time on the date of the drawing. So I only use your nighttime draws. So you can try to pick some of those out if you do play your nighttime, like for your daily threes, pick threes, and so forth. You can check out the website. It's magnoliamoney.net. I will drop a link in the description. I appreciate you guys hanging out and going over this with me. I really do wish you guys the best of luck in getting your wins. And again, you guys, play within your means. Don't go and just spend tons of money on a bunch of random numbers. I mean, really think about what you're going to play and how it plays out. Do your research on, these different methods, and please play responsibly. Good luck to everybody. Thank you all. If you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Give a thumbs up if you appreciate or like the content. Thank you guys so much. I'll post another video soon. Later, y'all.